1 out of every 6 women will be assaulted in their lifetime. It's actually every 2 minutes somebody will be sexually assaulted. You're like, wow, that is a very, very high number. But a lot of people, especially women, that are very, very much hurt. How do you overcome when something really, really bad happens to you? How do you move on? With me, I have a special guest today, and her name is Tammy Carroll. She has overcome. She has a healing prayer ministry today that has to do with joy. And she was drugged by a coworker. She was kidnapped, and then she was raped. And today you will find out, when it seems absolutely impossible, that we have a God that can heal. Tammy, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You were kidnapped, drugged, and raped.
Correct.
What happened?
I was working at a car lot, and I was the only female car salesperson, and an older gentleman who was married had befriended me, and come to find out he wasn't even who he said he was. He was working under an alias name. He was totally not who he said
Now,
he
did
was.
the company not check on any of that, or they just believed?
I don't know. You know, it was in the early 80s, and
Okay.
you know, I'm not really sure what their standards were. But that particular evening, he was supposed to take me home from work, and we never made it home.
Right.
So
I want more detail on this. So you're in the car together. You assume you're just going home. You assume your coworkers, everything is fine, and then
Right.
what? How do they just drug you? That doesn't just.
Right.
You're not stupid. You know?
Right. So after happy hour, you know, there was a happy hour after work, and all of the employees would go to the restaurant and have happy hour. And I wasn't a big drinker at that time, but I was just part of the crowd and, you know, having a drink after work. And I remember being very disoriented, and we had stayed there just for a little while, and I'm pretty sure that what happened was he had stuck something in my drink.
Right.
And so then after we were leaving and we were supposed to be heading one direction, we weren't. We were heading towards San Francisco, and we were on the freeway, and I was like, oh my gosh, where are you going? You're supposed to be taking me home. Where are we going? And he said, no, we're not going there. And even at that point, there was already sexual acts that were happening in the car that he was forcing me to do. And
But he's driving.
He was.
So how can he force you to do things that moment?
he's using his other hand, and he was forcing me to do some terrible
And
things.
you were disoriented. So
I was, and feeling very frightened. And so, and I was a virgin, so I just need to say that. But
did you save yourself for marriage?
I was a Christian, well, I am a Christian, but at that time I was 23 years old, and, you know, just very innocent and very trusting, very too much trusting, if you will. And so we were headed to the Bay Area, and he was saying vicious, horrible things to me. And he ended up taking me to the Tenderloin area of San Francisco, and forcing me to dance with dirty, filthy men, and more drinks. And at one point,
There was not a moment there you could have cried out for help?
well, there were two. There were several times, actually. There was one time that, in the Tenderloin area, it was very scary because the outside was just as scary as the inside. And I kept saying, please take me home, please take me home. And he would say, well, I could leave you here. And that was very scary to think about that, you know, left in the Tenderloin in the evening. It was getting dark. And then one other time, we were in a restaurant. He had taken me into a restaurant, and everybody knew him under his alias name. And this part is really key because there was an older couple that was sitting next to me, and he was up at the bar speaking to someone. And I spoke over to the older couple, and I said, please help me. Please help me. He's kidnapped me, and I can't get away from him. And they took my arms, and they were helping me to walk out of the restaurant. And he came running over, and he said, no, stop. What are you doing? She's my wife. What are you doing? And they were frightened by this. And I said, no, I'm not. Help me. But then the people at the bar knew him under his real name. So they were not helping, they were laughing, and he said, we have to go, and he grabbed my arm, and we left out of that place. So it was a sequence of one place to another where he was taking me, and then when we got in the car after that event, you know, I really, he was very violent in his words and getting physical. And it was...
He raped you?
Well, not at that point.
Okay.
Not at that point, but it was leading up to it.
Right.
And so then there was another time when we had stopped at another bar, and he was getting ready to take me into this place, and I ran and I got away, and I fell, and I actually tore my pants up, and I ran, and this was one place where we had went where they didn't know him at all, and I could describe a place exactly. And I called my sister. We had payphones then, and so I called my little sister. She was home, and my mom was out of town that weekend, and so I called and I said, trying to tell her where I was, and she was so smart. She says, tell me what street you're at. So I told her the cross streets, and she said, well, tell me where you're at. And I asked the patrons where I was at.
So your sister's trying to come to you.
Right. Well, she's in Pleasanton.
He goes after you at that point?
Well, he wasn't even in there at that point, and then he came and grabbed the phone and started yelling profanities at my sister and dragged me out.
Right.
And then at that point, then we ended up going, he took me to a terrible hotel, and
after all these years, it must still be so painful for you, and yet you have overcome so much, and we'll get there in just a moment. How did you get away?
Well, it was a sequence. I was gone for about a day, like 2 days. It was almost into the next day, and I can't even believe he did this to me, but he took me back home to his wife and his children at their home. Talk about humiliation. I was already feeling filthy, as everything that happened that was so violent and so ugly. And then to have to walk in to his wife and his home with his children, and I was just heartbroken. And I picked up his keys. He had laid him down, and I just picked up his keys, and I said, I'm leaving. And I took his car, and I drove home.
Good. There's a lot more to talk about real quick. After you go through that, how do you feel? Is it shock, shame, dirt? How deep does it go?
And at that time, the police weren't really trained as they are now to help victims of rape like that. Yeah. And so I was made to feel very like I asked for it. Why did you get in the car? Why did you have a drink? There was a lot of that going on. And Victims Witness Program came alongside, and they really helped me. But the police at that time had done a lot of things that were illegal. I had to go identify him in a car, in an unmarked car. And
so there's a lot more to that. And I want to hear more about that.
Okay.
But
definitely felt very unworthy, very dirty, very...
Isn't that amazing? You feel dirty while you're the victim.
Right.
It's amazing how that works. And stay with me for a moment. I'm sorry when you hear those stuff. If that's you right now, or you have a family member or a loved one, you just heard the worst part. But there is hope, and there are things that can be turned around. Is that right? Absolutely not. But there is hope, how it can be turned around. Stay tuned and find out what that is.
Barb TV is building a fantastic community of followers who love the show, love all the messages that Barb's bringing and all of her guests. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Barb TV.
How do you overcome incredible hardship? How do you overcome rape, kidnapping, and being drugged? And this subject is really dear to my heart because it's my daughter that was drugged. It was my daughter that was raped. It was my daughter that got pregnant and that has been in a bad, bad situation now for about 8 years. So it is real, folks. This stuff does happen. How do you overcome when that happens to you? What are the results when you come out of something like that? Did you know that a victim like this is 3 more times likely to hit depression, 4 more times likely to commit suicide, 6 more times likely to have PTSD, and 13 more times likely to become an alcoholic? And I wonder if Tammy went through any of that. Tammy, what was the aftermath? What did you go through after you worked through that?
Well, as I told you, I was raised a Christian, and at that time I got really angry at God. My father had just passed away suddenly, and then the rape happened, and I was not in line with how I was raised. And so I started drinking and partying, and I met someone who I eventually married, who we sold drugs. We did a lot of things. It started out marijuana, that kind of thing, but we were doing quite a few.
Does that explain the
drugs?
drugs? A little bit of the
It does.
tremors in your hands now?
Thank you. Yeah,
know?
this is a consequence that I have of some bad choices that I made.
Yeah.
But I keep believing for healing for this. But this is where I was transformed.
Wow.
This is where, when I had enough.
So you're into drugs, you're into alcohol, you basically just marry just because you're trying to prove yourself and show love.
Right.
You have children, and now I am seeing an incredible, hurting, sad woman.
Well, I didn't have any children at that time in that
Yeah.
marriage, but there was a period where I just thought, I'm done. I am just done with all of this. We were,
So did you blame God for all of it? Said that, you blame God for this, and then, but yet, there is free will. So is it the right thing to blame God? Right. And why does He allow it to begin with?
Right.
What was your answer to
Right.
that?
And so part of me looks back and says, how much worse it could have been. Now that I see how God made it all work out, He redeemed it all. But during that time, even during the rape, I remember just feeling so like, Lord, just help me to survive this. I mean, it got to a point where I was just so begging that He wouldn't kill me. And then when we were selling drugs, or when we were doing all of these heavy drugs together, I mean, and driving drunk and doing all of those things that you're not supposed to do, right. I could have been in prison. I could have been in jail. I could have killed someone else. All of those things, but yet the Lord was protecting me. I always felt like I was that little lost sheep that you see with Jesus, and He was always after my heart,
so
and He was protecting
me.
me.
What was the turnaround point at that point? What turned you back to peace?
Right. So this is a beautiful moment in my life. I was about 26, 27 years old, and I just really had this realization that I was done. I was just done with it all. And I went back to church, and I was going to a little Baptist church at that time, and I was baptized, recommitted my life to the Lord, and was baptized as an adult. And I just threw myself into every kind of Bible study, every kind of truth where people could speak truth to my life. There was a lot of older women that came alongside of me at that time, and they just really helped me, and I just was so committed to the Lord. And I think that was I know that was my overcoming moment, and my faith has continued to grow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. A lot of healing took place. How long was the process? Did you ever have to get to that point? Because I believe you have to. That you forgive the offender, because if you do not forgive him, you bring him along in your heart the rest of your life.
Right.
Did you get to that point?
I did. There was a time when I was in my late 20s. I met my current husband, and we have a beautiful marriage and a son. But during that time, I did go through a lot of deliverance, and I just really released and prayed through and renounced all of the demonic that was involved in all of that, and I forgave. And
what did that feel like, that moment? Right. Did it feel, when you forgive something that is really, really, really wrong?
Yes.
And by the way, before I even go there, did he go to jail for it?
No, he skipped, and the DA wouldn't even take the case, because remember, he was working under alias, and all the places that we went to all knew him as his real name. So the only place that I had people saying, yes, this woman was dragged out of here, was that one bar that we went to where I described the places, and the DA said that they couldn't find it. And so that was very disheartening. It came down to, it was a young DA. He wasn't going to take the case unless he was 100% sure that he could win. And so it just got pushed under the rug.
Wow.
But I did go for counseling for years.
And that helped. Helped. What was some of the advice that the counselor gave you?
Gosh, it was a long time ago, but really, it's not about you, and how it was a violent act. And, you second guess yourself a lot. Did did I do the wrong thing? Did I, what, you know, I went with him in the car. So it's like date rape almost, you know, even though I wasn't out on a date with him. It was someone I knew, but you know, that trust level, and then you start second guessing. Was it something that I did? Was it, should I have fought harder? But at that point, I just needed to be alive, you know.
Now, I've been told it's often, I think it's pretty high percentage that it's somebody you know in one way or another.
Right.
Did the coworker still stay at the same job that you were at?
Afterwards?
Yes.
No.
He took off.
No. And I didn't go back either. That was
Right.
just a really bad situation.
Okay.
So.
It's tough. And then I want to talk to you about that in a moment. What do you do? What do you do when this is you? And how do you overcome that? Call us. Tell us what you would have done. 855-515-5550, or go to our website, barbtv.org. And if that has been you, or you're living in any other kind of circumstances that you say, oh my goodness, I need help, I know who can help you. And we want to help you to find him and to get that help that you are so desperately need. Stay tuned. There's more. There are many that have questions, spiritual questions, and would like to have the answers to that. And we have created something for you specifically for that. On our website, you just check on it, and it has this big sign up that says, Got Questions. barbtv.org, Got Questions. What do you do when you get raped and or sexually assaulted? What you want to do is shower, go hide, and run away, and don't tell anybody. According to Tammy, just looking at her, it's hard to talk about that. How do you work with that? And some things that you need to know is, first of all, do not take a shower, especially when you were drugged. If possible, do not use the bathroom. Do not go to the toilet. Do not change clothing. Do not get rid of your underwear. Do not do any of those things. You have 96 hours to get help. Call 911, as embarrassing or hard, as ugly as it feels. Do not stay and do like what Tammy did for many years, even after she tried to get help. And one problem turned into another because the help that she needed so badly was not there, and it was so much to overcome. So do not shower, do not do the bathroom, the toilet, get help. You have 96 hours. If you must, roll yourself in a blanket for some comfort, and then make that call, because they want to help you, especially today, and not leave you where you're at. And Tammy, is that true? Is that true what the best thing is to do?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Why the blanket? Why is the recommendation? Is it a protection feeling, a not touch feeling? So,
yeah, I don't know.
Just the coverage.
I haven't heard that.
Right.
But for me, I know even right afterwards, you know, my mom came home and we did make the police report, and then having to go to the hospital, and just know your rights. I think that would be my biggest thing.
Rights,
there are a lot of victims witness programs around that are right there to help women and walk alongside you as you're going through these things, because my rights were violated many, many times.
Wow.
And
I
even
look
at the
at
hospital.
you now, you know, here you are, you have a thriving ministry.
Yes.
God turned it around. What is it that you're trying to do?
Well, you know, we all have life hurts. And we all have those horrible stories that you want to lock in a vault and never look at again. And so I love to help women forgive and realize who they are in Christ and how much He loves them, and be able to move forward in their lives. So as a Christian life coach, I do that. I work with Healing Prayer Ministry, and we dig deep and we talk about those life hurts and get rid of them so that we can be the woman that the Lord has called us to be.
I know women have come to you. I know women have asked for help. When they leave you, what's the difference? The pain's still there, basically.
Well, you know, it's softer. You know, it's a memory, but yet the Lord has this amazing way of taking our hearts and just molding them when we release those hurts to the Lord. And really see how much the Lord was there and he was protecting you and how much worse it could have been.
Yeah.
And a lot of times all of those feelings, that's just the enemy, that speaks to your spirit and tries to pull you away from the desires of what the Lord has built for you or how he created you to be. And so when we dig deep and we deal with the spirit of rejection or the spirit of fear and all of those things that can be associated with life hurts as we go along, whether it's abuse or whatever that was, that isn't what the Lord intended for you. And so by we just digging deep and we pull it out and we identify it, that's number one. So we clarify what those experiences are. And then we assess what we need to forgive. And then we take back what the enemy tried to steal from us.
I love the taking back.
Yes.
Did you ever get the answer, God, why? Why me? Why was this allowed? Why did you not stop it?
Yeah, I feel like some of it was choices that I made and some of it was choices that other people made. And I'm of the thought that, we're not puppets and the Lord, we have free choice. And part of that may have been a little of my responsibility. I went out drinking. I don't know, I didn't ask to be raped. I didn't ask for the drugs in the drink. I didn't ask for the violence. That wasn't anything that I asked for in my life. But it was the choices of someone else's sinful life. And but the Lord was there. I look back and I just see, like I said, how much it's been redeemed. And I had a very successful business this time last year, and the Lord shut the doors on that business. And he told me that I was going to be telling my story and helping other women so that they can be free.
So did God allow it so you could help other people in similar situations? That's a wrong one. That's hard to answer that, isn't that?
Yeah, I just don't like God allowed it. I just don't like that. I feel like there were circumstances, it happened, choices were made, and yet he was protecting me. I feel very protected because I look back in those terrible 20s and I could tell you so many times that it could have gone really bad, and the Lord was protecting me.
I love your attitude. It is absolutely beautiful. You're doing a healing ministry right now.
Right.
What's the website if people want to find out more about
Thank
it?
you. It's createjoytoday.com.
All right. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
It was an honor.
Thank
It was
you.
an honor.
Appreciate
I want
you.
to give you my book, Ransomed.
Yay!
And I know God ransomed you because he helped you to overcome.
Thank you.
So-
Thank you so much.
And there's a lot of things. I used to have a pet squirrel, and I know it feels like a total different subject, but it is not. And that pet squirrel bit one of the children in my childcare, and we loved that squirrel so much that we made sure that squirrel was not going to be put down. So we took the squirrel to the forest, as far away from people as possible. It was like my best buddy sitting on my shoulder, and we brought it deep into the forest. And on one of the Super Bowl days, I went to go see my squirrel to bring him food and protect him. And I got out there, and I'm in the middle of the woods, right nowhere. And I'm standing there, and I'm looking for Sebastian the squirrel. And out of nowhere, all of a sudden, there is a man coming down the mountain, charging right at me. And I didn't even notice him till he was about 25 feet away from me. And he walked right at me. And because of my story in the past, when certain things happen, I have learned to approach. So I asked him, "Sir, can I help you?" Which stopped him, and he walked to the side of me. But I just knew it was bad. And when you know it's bad, what do? You run. So the moment he stopped, I ran. I ran over the creek, up the mountain, over the road, and it was quite a ways to run, and I ran. And when I finally got to my car, while I'm opening the car door, there was this man that had come up the other side running towards me. My heart stopped. My heart pounded. I pounded. I locked myself in the car, turned it around, had to pass him, and he jumped in the bushes. Nothing happened, but it freaked me out. It freaked me out. It does something to you and it causes a fear. And that is not at all of God. And throughout the years, I have said, is there something that we could do that we could protect ourselves? Is there something that we can do? And there is an organization that is called Damsel that actually will sell you things like stud guns and some other things that you can bring with you, that you somehow feel a little bit more protected. And I want to show you this one right here. Here is one of this, and if you take it like this, it's nothing. It doesn't work at all. But if you put it in there, then it works greatly. And when you do this, look at that. It feels more protected. So if you are afraid, I want to encourage you, check out Damsel, see if you can bring something, buy some things that you would feel more safe, more protected. This is not a weapon, get even with something, but that you feel more protected. And what does the Bible say about all this? There was David that when his daughter got raped, that took it very lightly and didn't really want to deal with the problem when his daughter Tamar got raped by David's son. It's a hard subject. It is hard to deal. How does God look at this? There are several stories in the Bible. God condemns it. God doesn't agree with it. And God doesn't want you to have to hurt like that. And when you overcome that, when that has happened to you, if you were in the wrong spot or the wrong moment or whatever it was, this is what Psalm 23 verse 4 says for you right now. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. God was with Tammy through the whole thing. He did not agree with it, and he helped her to overcome. And today she is able to help many, many women with their hurts, whatever they are. You can make something good out of something really, really bad. I just want to tell you right now, whatever circumstances that you are in right now, don't allow the past to become your future. Turn to God, ask for help, and He will rescue you. Call us, 855-515-5550, or go to our website, barbtv.org. We want to help you, and God longs to restore you. Have a great day.